Alright, what is up, YouTube? It is K-Rod here. I have a really good article that I wanted to share with y'all. It's from the boxing scene. It's Danny Garcia wanting to help professional boxers manage finances after their careers are over. So Danny Garcia may be well thick in his according to boxing scene, it says in this article, Danny may well be in the thick of his prize fighting prime, but he has already charted out what his post career plans may look like. At the top of his priorities, apparently, is to bring a white collar mentality to a fundamentally blue collar pursuit. The welterweight contender from Philadelphia recently expressed his desire to a startup company that will cater to the oft overlooked financial needs of professional fighters. As the saying goes, fighters fight, but what about their year-end taxes, their mortgages, their pensions, all the facets, and in other words, that are associated with the mainstream but are considered beyond the pale of the boxing industry. When I'm done with boxing, I want to start a firm that helps boxers do their taxes and create a 401k plan. You know what I'm saying? Garcia said on the Bridge Business podcast, that's like my real goal, teaching them about tax brackets, teach them about health insurance. Garcia, who takes on Aerosmiths, blah blah blah, and yeah, credit books, yeah, credit books by Donald Trump, and okay, I don't care about that. 90% of billionaires in the world are from real estate, and 1% of the world is millionaires, said Garcia, who fits right into that 1%. That's crazy, so I'm going to go with real estate and the stocks for my long term income. Garcia hopes to impart some of what he has learned one day to his peers, many of whom are focused primarily on chasing world titles or their next paycheck, not necessarily how to go about filing out a Roth IRA report. I want to build a solid foundation so that when a fighter comes with me with $1 million, I can say, look at this. Look, this is for taxes. This is for 401ks. This is for how much you're going to spend this year. This much is for health insurance," said Garcia, who owned a record label and clothing brand. And then in 10 years, you keep building up, and that's what it will be. That's like one of my business ideas. So hopefully nobody beats me to that race. Fighters don't have a will. They don't have a trust. They don't have any of that stuff. They don't have an estate. They don't have life insurance. Garcia continued. They don't have none of that. I guarantee you that's what I want to do. Help set you up a solid foundation. Even if another fighter listens to this, maybe they can learn from this. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I think Danny Garcia is a very intelligent person outside of boxing. I think what he wants to do is to probably create some form of financial firm to help manage and control, fighters' financial security. Which, I mean, that's not a bad idea. Maybe if he wants to create his own like 401k type, financial agency where he puts money down into the business, and then, fighters invest money into his business, so he helps by investing that money into other trades or other investments to keep people's finances protected. I'm pretty sure he'll probably do something like that in the future. But I think this is a good idea for the sense of like what I've kind of been saying for quite a long time with other people about how like other sports, they have their athletes financially protected. You don't see like NBA athletes for the most part like being completely broke, which I mean, you know, I'd say for the most part, yes, it's all about how you spend your money. But if you're like, let's just say, very disciplined with your finances and you know what you're doing with like your life, then you don't really think about like losing your job from the NBA because like the NBA, they're giving you a crap load of money. for you to play basketball, but as long as you show up to work and you do what you have to do in the league, then the amount of money that you're going to get back once you retire from the NBA is like almost like 3 times the amount of money that you're making now. Because for those of you that don't know, in other sports like basketball, baseball, soccer, all these big time sports that athletes get into, um, like most of those sports have a financial protection, pension that covers athletes, you know, like before and after they get out of their sport. And the good thing about it is that that gives them all the protection that they need in order for them to get by. And I think it's a good idea. I'd say honestly, like I think, actual businesses should be doing that. So that way they could help their employees grow as an individual. So that way they feel, satisfied and they feel protected when they get into a job. So that way, if they do get laid off or they do end up retiring from a company that they get into, they at least have that pension coming back to them because it's already pre-invested. That's being taken out of their paycheck as a financial stash to use for like a backup, which I'd say for athletics, especially in the sports industry, it would make a lot of sense to have that in the sport of boxing because a lot of fighters do not invest their money, and boxing is a very dirty sport, especially to what people call the Wild West of sports, which I don't like to put it like that, but I call it the red market of sports because boxing is a very dangerous sport, but the costs and the sacrifices you put into the sport do not come back to you in good results. And I believe that it's due to a lack of appreciation of the sport, and it's a lack of cooperation and marketized control in the sport, where there's actual organizations that are there to be available for you in other sports. But for the sport of boxing, you're on your own. You can't just run to some like committee board or some organization that could represent for you, and you can get the proper just due of your financial, liberty being compensated for your work. Because, at least in other sports and like the NBA or the MLB or any of these like mega sports organizations, like they have those type of like, arbitration rulings within, their business itself for you to like go to certain, I would say like board of directors that could talk out your contract negotiations, or anybody within high management that could actually speak for you, or not speak for you, but they could represent with you to protect your financial liberty. Because that's obviously what every athlete wants to have. They want to have financial security before and after they get out of their sport. So I think that's what the sport of boxing needs. The sport of boxing needs like a type of financial, protection agency of some sort to help people's careers go a certain direction. And I think it just needs to be marketized, like we need like boxing fight leagues that could actually protect the fighter's income and protect the fighter's career before and after they get out of the sport. Boxing needs to be held, accountable to the highest, standard. I don't like it when fighters get cheated. I think fighters need to get compensated for that type of, illegal activities that are done to fighters. Where fighters, if they do get cheated, they should get paid for restitution and get the justice of prosecuting that fighter or opposing, party or arbitrate or opposing criminal that had inflicted damages onto that fighter themselves. If the opposing whatchamacallit, opposing criminal is found guilty in a court of law. But as far as just like having financial protection in the sport of boxing, that needs to be marketized more. I like to see like some sort of like financial organizations pop up out of it to protect, a fighter's, financial earnings. And fighters don't have to, basically sit out, off the streets and shit and start suffering, due to making crappy decisions in boxing as far as like spending money and shit. Which, I mean, that's more of like, yeah, that's more of like a personal problem. But when we go, a little bit more macro to like determine like how much money a fighter makes and what a fighter does with his or her money, I think boxers need to have some form of financial, security as far as having their health insurance, their life insurance, and having their dental, covered as well. Like I think every sport should provide financial security to those to those players or athlete, themselves. Like I understand like people, like would try to disagree to say, oh well, boxing is different from any other sport. It's just all you, in the ring, and you should be able to handle your own business, throughout your own career. And it's like that's obviously not true, because if boxers were able to handle themselves, throughout their careers, it's like, then more fighters would get paid, at an all-time high. So, boxers can't financially survive off of a, let's just say, a $2,000 payday, and then that's it. After they get their $2,000, what happens with that money? It's usually just gone by then, because they have to pay out their team. They're gonna get taxed, by the state, which, I just find that to be absolutely evil. But if you really think about it, when you kind of add all those numbers up, that's going to be taken out of like your, taken out of your cut. It's like, you're probably getting less than 10% of that money that you should be earning. Fighters should be making 3 times the amount of money, that, most of these low end, low tier fighters are making now. Am I saying that some bums should be making like $80,000 a fight, and then they continue to fight other bums for that same amount of money? Hell no. But what I am saying is that if you want to make more money in the sport of boxing, you have to fight contemporaries. You have to fight tough competition, day in, day out. Cause I believe that's what makes the sport grow financially, and that's how you're going to make your name in the sport. But on top of that, when you do your job and you come to work to, succeed and become the best athlete that you can in the sport, I think it makes all the sense in the world for you to make more money, regardless if you have a belt or not in the sport, to become a world champion. Because I could really care less if I am not a world champion, but if I'm fighting my better competition and I keep winning, and let's just say I keep climbing up, up that ladder to dominate everybody, and I'm a up and coming rising star, I should get paid more for, for those bigger fights. I should be getting, a bigger purse split or a bigger payout every time I'm going out to fight. And then, I should have multiple sponsors that, that like who I am as a fighter, to put me on, their platform, or to support me in whatever manner that I have to support them for. It makes all the sense in the world, because it's like in the NBA, you see players like Jason Tatum that's on Subway commercials, Shaquille O'Neal that's on, multiple commercials, like Icy Hot, like AutoZone, or anything that you could think of, why can't fighters be put on those big time commercials? I'm sure some fighters are, but not a lot, because those businesses don't look into the sport of boxing, as their progressive medium of making money. They look at the NFL, they look at the NBA, they look at the MLB or NHL. It's just so bullshit, because it's why can't a boxer be put on those commercials? I'm sure you can get an Errol Spence promoting a video game of some sort, or you can get a Clarissa Shields promoting a hair product or whatever. I think it makes all the sense in the world of why the sport of boxing is dying, and it's never going to get any better until people speak up about it and say, "Hey, why aren't we being put out on, on these bigger media platforms? Why aren't we being put out on bigger advertisements that are going to, uplift every fighter, out of their seat to become a better, marketable athlete?" It's like, if you're like, if you're doing your job like, as an athlete, and you are putting in all the time and putting in all that work to become successful, you should be given, the financial, like, financial benefits, of that hard work that you put in. And I think it makes all the sense in the world, because, these fighters put their lives onto the line, or like, lives on the line, and, it makes zero sense why fighters don't get, that type of respect, because Danny Garcia, he is a name in the sport of boxing, but, why can't he be a name when he gets, put on a Pepsi commercial or a Sprite commercial? Why can't he? Like, Danny Garcia deserves that, because, if he is getting people to come see him fight, he should be put on a bigger spotlight than for what he's going through right now. But that's just what I have to say. I think this is a good idea what Danny's trying to do. I think I already know, like, what he's trying to do. He wants to create some sort of, like, financial insurance fund for boxers to control their money, and to make sure that they continue to make more money after their careers are over, so they don't, waste, trying to spend it and shit like that. And I mean, I think like, we already have that, that would be financial advisors for, for that manner. But it'd be interesting to see what Danny would do in the future, like, when it's all said and done, because Danny Garcia is a future Hall of Famer, and I think he's already done enough in the sport. So I think Danny Garcia has a long way of becoming a mega figure in the sport of boxing after he's done with his career. And it'll be awesome to see him help out many fighters, and he can build himself up to become a bigger, influence, to many. Because, boxing should be number one in the world of sports, but it just sucks that it's not, because, there's just so much bad blood and corruption in the sport that makes everyone so divided and so racially pessimistic towards one another. And that's what really makes up the sport go downhill, because it's like, like, nobody doesn't want to go to a boxing fight and then come to find out they see some fighter cheat and kill the other fighter. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's like, people don't, give a shit about that until it, actually becomes mainstream enough for you to look at that, and then you're like, okay, no, this shit needs to stop. Because it's like, you don't see this out of the NBA. You don't, you never see this out of a, NFL game, MLB game. None of these bigger top major sports where any athlete goes beyond of trying to kill another athlete. But it's like, in the sport of boxing, I would say, that's like the only sport in the world where you can actually get away with cheating at an all-time high, and then possibly kill or, brutally injure your opponent. And people will try to play that off as if, it's like basically, they use political protectionism to laugh it off and say that there's nothing wrong with it, when the whole world knows that there is something wrong with it, and there's a fire flaming inside the jungle that nobody doesn't want to take out. But then when it gets really, really bad, people will start suffering, at an all-time high, when it's futile to, to try to save it from getting worse. But, that's pretty much what I gotta say. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is a good idea that Danny Garcia has in mind? I think it's a decent idea, but I think the sport of boxing Definitely needs to be marketized more. I'd like to see a boxing league. I'd like to see something similar to the NBA where, honestly, like, for those of you that don't know, like there used to be a boxing league called the NBA, the National Boxing Association at one point, but I guess it got taken down because of corrupt sanctioning bodies at the time that came up to lobby against them, and it was there for protecting fighters and making sure fighters are collectively represented in the fight league, so that way fighters can compete at an all-time high against all the best competition. But then once the political legalization of those sanctioning bodies came through, that's when the state started to monopolize and give these sanctioning bodies a lot of crazy amount of political leeway to do whatever the hell they want. And then that's where we are in the sport of boxing. But that'll be there for like another discussion. But that's pretty much what I have to say. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is a good idea by Danny Garcia? Do you have ideas yourself that you could possibly bring to help the sport of boxing, improve and become the best sport once again known to the world? So that's pretty much what I have to say. Long live the sport of boxing. Long live all modernistic and historic forms of pugilism. And yeah, this is Kieran Rodriguez signing out. Thank you very much and goodbye.